Seeing as we looked at the preferences dialog in the previous tutorial, I thought what I would do here, and in actual fact over the following couple of tutorials too, is have a continued look at the preferences, although to be fair not all of them, seeing as there are around about 1 million, well perhaps only half that. Anyway, I will look at some of the preferences, only because some of the preferences I want to alter do crop up again and again on forums, whereby new users are a little bit puzzled why they can't do certain things. So I'll start off then by coming up to Edit and then down to Preferences. Alternatively, if you are a shortcut person, remember this one, Ctrl+U. If you're on a Mac, remember you access the preferences from the Dreamweaver menu, and the keyboard shortcut is Command+U. Okay, so whichever way you do it, then we are going to see this preferences dialog. And so that we're not distracted by the main Dreamweaver user interface, I'll fade that away so that we only see this preferences dialog. Okay, so as we saw in the previous tutorial, we have this category list here down the left-hand side. And as you can see, as I alluded to a moment ago, within these individual categories, there are quite a number of preference changes you can make. Now presently we're looking at General, the one we looked at in the previous tutorial, but of course all you need to do is work your way down to one of these categories, and then by selecting it, this one for example, highlighting, well in this case we'll open up various options and checkbox changes you can make that are particular to how highlighting works within your documents. Now I'm not going to go into this at the moment, we'll get back to this as and when necessary throughout the course. Additionally, if you want to choose a different category, perhaps for example this one, New Document, well you'll see these options here, they're not all checkboxes, some of them are fields that we can change. Well, dependent on the type of user that you are, i.e. do you prefer working with HTML documents or do you prefer working with CSS or PHP documents, then well you can set the default here. At the moment it's set to HTML, and predominantly throughout this course we are going to be working on HTML documents, so I'm going to leave it at that, but of course if you want to change it, then by clicking on here, then we can run down and choose whichever option that we want to make the default. Whatever you choose here, by the way, doesn't disregard all the other options. You still can create those document types, but whatever you choose here, when you create a default document, will be the document type that opens up. So, for example, if you prefer working with CSS as your starting point, then you would change it to CSS. Perhaps you are the sort of web developer who initially prefers to start a website by creating the cascading style sheet that will dictate the look and the feel of the rest of the site. Or maybe you are the sort of web developer that prefers to create PHP documents so that you can create dynamic sites. Well, of course, you would choose PHP here. Now, as I say, predominantly I'm going to be working with HTML, so let me change that back. Okay, now I'm going to go back up to my top category, General, because there is a checkbox option here that might be useful to you. It's this second one down within the document options, marked as Reopen Documents on Startup. When you are developing a website, more often than not I would suspect, you tend to work on the same file until you've got it right, until you've got it complete. But you don't necessarily do it all in one sitting. It might very well be that you work on it for an hour or two, close down Dreamweaver, go on to Photoshop or whatever, and then at a later point come back into Dreamweaver. Well, rather than using the welcome screen or navigating through to find the particular document that you last left off at, well, by checking in here, this will mean that when you launch Dreamweaver, that particular file will be the one that automatically opens up. Okay, so quite a good time saver if that's the sort of web developer that you think you are going to be, or the sort of web developer that you actually are. Notice how I'm trying to bring in both types of user at the moment for this course, complete beginners and those who have been using Dreamweaver for a little while. Now I don't tend to work on the same document, so I'm going to leave that unchecked, and then I'm going to come down to the options below in the editing options area, because there is something within building websites that, for new users anyway, can be quite frustrating. New users tend to think that writing text within a website document is going to operate or format in exactly the same way as text does in a program such as Microsoft Word, i.e. if you want to leave multiple spaces between words, well, within Microsoft Word, you would just simply repeatedly hit your spacebar to add those spaces in. However, the way that building websites work means you can't automatically add in multiple spaces. And no matter how many times you tap on that spacebar, like a bad-tempered and frustrated woodpecker, those extra spaces won't be added in. And like that woodpecker, you'll only end up giving yourself a headache. However, you know where I'm leading with this, don't you? Down at this option, allow multiple consecutive spaces. Well, if you checked in here, then you could now add in those spaces. Let me show you this in practice. I'm going to leave it unchecked and run down to OK. And then now here within Dreamweaver's user interface, I'm going to create a new document. So what I could do is I could run up to File and then down to New, noticing also the shortcut there, if you want to use it, Ctrl+N. On Mac, the shortcut is Command-N. Alternatively, if you've left your welcome screen in view, then you could come over to this middle column and create a new HTML document. So I'm going to click on there, and then now in this resulting empty page, I'll type in some text. Welcome to this total training course on Adobe's Dreamweaver CC Creative Cloud. Okay, all well and good so far. I didn't want to leave a space between those words, but if I hit return and move down to the next line, I'll write in my name is Mark. But possibly at this point, I decide, well, I want to leave some spaces in between is and Mark. So I would move my cursor back to the beginning of Mark and then hit my spacebar numerous times. But as you can see, nothing is happening. I can't add in any blank spaces like I could do in Microsoft Word. Okay, so that's the issue. So let's resolve this. I'll come up to Edit once more, down to Preferences, and then in the General category, I will check in here where it says Allow Multiple Consecutive Spaces. I'll run down to OK it. Therefore now, when I write the same sentence, my name is Mark, well, as you can see, by hitting the spacebar between is and Mark, or indeed any words really, but by hitting the spacebar repeatedly, I can leave as many spaces as I require. Okay, so it's a simple solution so long as you know how to do it by using the Preferences option.